Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about the difference of this, can't see that, this, and this. Which one's better in my opinion, and hopefully you guys can leave a comment and tell me which one you think is better. So, I'll go down each one of them if you don't know what all of them are. This, I don't know if you can see it or not, this is a vinyl record, otherwise known as an LP or a vinyl or just a record. It is a black disc, sort of like a CD, although it's a lot bigger, it's a lot heavier, and it has two sides on it. Each side can hold about 4 to 5 songs. A total album, I think, can hold about 50 minutes. So about as much as a CD, maybe a little bit more than a CD. I actually think it can hold one more song than a CD. Depending on how long the songs are. This is completely analog, which means there's no lasers, there's no computers, it's just analog, straight from the needle to your speakers. So, I prefer this, and I'll tell you why in a minute. This is a compact disc, a compact digital audio disc to be exact. These came out in about 70, they were developed in 1979, I believe. They started becoming mainstream in about 1982 when most people started buying them. This is it is digital. It uses a laser to read the disc. It has little dots on it which show, like, one dot pushed in means 0, I believe, and one pushed out means 1. It works a lot like your hard drive on your computer, except for it's a lot littler in space. This is about, I believe, CDs are 300 megabits, or megabytes, I could be wrong on that, I'm not sure. This can hold about 17 songs, depending on how long each song is. These are nice, but they aren't made as much anymore. Digital music is now the mainstream audio. Before it was this. These were great. I like them, but I don't like them as much as vinyl, and again, I'll explain that in a second. This is a cassette. There are not much of these still used anymore. There are not much of them made either. They are analog as well, which means no lasers, no computers, anything. It is just the tape, as you can maybe see right there. It is the tape that is read off the tape player straight to your speakers, just taped on there. No lasers, no nothing, no needles. It's just the tape scraping along the tape reader. I'm not too technical on cassettes, but basically it. This is an iPod. You've probably never seen this one before because it's a first generation iPod from 2001. But yes, this is an iPod. This is MP3 right here. This is what it is now. This is what everybody uses. They don't really use iPods anymore. More like iPhones, iPod Touches, you get the idea. But this is an iPod. And it plays music. It's all stored on the hard drive in the iPod. Most iPods, most MP3 players now are flash storage, which means there's no moving parts. This is a hard drive in here. This stores songs on a hard disk, a lot like your computer. Same with flash memory. It plays the song on here. Comes out of the headphone jack. No stereo, no speakers required. And it's pretty straightforward, very easy to use. I have about 1,200 songs on here, 10 gigs of music. Very good. I love this thing. I use it constantly. It works for me great, and this is what I prefer other than records. And again, I'll explain why. So, we'll start off with the oldest format and the most loved, in my opinion, vinyl records. This is, like I said, a vinyl record, and I'll just show you what it looks like really quick if you've never seen one of these before. You've got an album sleeve which protects it. Again, these are very delicate, just like CDs. I actually think these are less delicate than CDs, but you can't touch the black either. These are made in different colors as well. So this is Pink Floyd, The Wall. This is a very well-known album. Each one of these rings is a song, and then on the other side is the same thing. This is the second side. And basically, instead of dots or 1s and 0s like on the CDs, I forgot to explain this earlier, it uses grooves, which are used by a weaver or something, I believe, that scrapes them into the vinyl, which is basically a plastic, a lot more better plastic that can hold songs, or that is more usable, I guess. It's a better material than plastic. It is a lot like plastic, though. And what this is the album cover. Some of them have 2 records in them for longer albums, like Pink Floyd or The Wall. Some of them have 1, most of them have 1 because it's just 1 album. This is an album. This is the actual term album. This is where that comes from. CDs aren't really albums, they're just CDs. This is an actual album. This is what you would call an album. If you're on iTunes, you really wouldn't call it an album. I guess you could, but that's what most people do. But the reason I prefer this, it's analog, which, like I said, no computers, and that is, to me, is a good thing because there are no computers redoing your music. Reproducing it is basically what happens. It reproduces the music with a CD, and for an instance, it reproduces the music off the CD, interprets the 1s and 0s into song or into audio, and converts it from digital to audio, which you can hear out of your speakers or whatever you're listening to. This is straight from the record through the record player. That doesn't have to interpret anything. It just goes along the grooves and comes straight out of your speakers, which means that there is no bit rate for this. It has an infinity bit rate, if that makes sense. There is no possible way to take the sound off of here and save it on a digital device and have the same quality that you can get off of here, because it's infinity of a sound quality, because it's analog. There's no way to measure how in-depth analog sound is, because it is natural, it's real. So it's kind of difficult to explain it, but you can look it up and it'll explain it to you a lot better. Me talking to you right now, I'm talking, everything that's coming out of my mouth is analog, because vibrations in my throat or whatever make the sound come out of my mouth. It goes into the phone, or what I'm using my phone to record, and then the phone takes the sound and converts it into numbers, 1s and 0s. It uploads it to YouTube. Your computer converts it from 1s and 0s to analog sound, so my voice will come out of your speakers sounding like I'm talking to you. So, in that process, some of the sound is lost. Some of the 1s and 0s from my voice are lost, so you're not hearing my full voice. You're just hearing a interpretation of my voice, if that makes any sense. So, everything I'm saying isn't quite as detailed in sound as it sounds coming out of your speakers that I'm saying, even though you really can't notice it because it's just my voice. If you were listening to music, you would notice it. If you were to listen to this with the best speakers in the world, you would feel, if you shut your eyes, you'd hear Roger Waters singing right in front of your face. That's how amazing it sounds. He is the guy that sings in this album. So, this is real sound. The grooves, which are like little waves inside that go around and around, are the guy's voice. And as that needle goes around the disc, it's like wobbling back and forth in like a micro thing. You can't see it. It's impossible to see it except for under a microscope. But like, let's say this is one line on the vinyl. It's curved a lot like this. So as the needle's going across the vinyl, it is kind of like waving back and forth and reproducing the sound as it goes back and forth. It's really hard to explain, but if you were to watch like how vinyls are made and how they play, it is amazing to just how this little disc, or it's not little, but how this disc can reproduce sound. But it's completely analog, so like I said, no computers reinterpreting your music. You hear exactly what the artist wanted you to hear in full. You can't say high definition because it's analog. There's no definition for it. It's just audio, natural, complete, as the artist wanted you to hear it. Another thing I like about this, most albums have this, especially on the album sleeve, which was the thing that I showed you that was covering the actual record. I can open this up and get a huge view of everything that the artist wanted me to see. You can see the amazing artwork and detail into this. You still get that with CDs. It's just not as good of a quality. This record is still being made, and it's still being sold today. And we'll go into that a little more, but you just get such a better experience. And as, well, we'll talk about that when we get to CDs, but I have another good point about that. So that's records. If I forgot anything, I'd come back to that. And here was the album sleeve that I was talking about. On most records, the The artwork will be on here. As you can see, there's liner notes about the whole, each lyrics and everything. It's really nicely made. Now, since this is analog too, I'll go into this. This is the cassette. Like I said, I explained that a little bit for you. So the cassette is not as good as the record. It is probably the least appreciated out of the four that I've showed you. This I still really like, and I'll tell you why. This is a tape, so as you play it, you can stop and come back a year later, and you'll still be on the same spot, and you can continue. With a CD, once you turn... Hey guys, so sorry the battery died, but anyway, now I'll move on to cassettes, since this is analog and they kind of go together. So, this is a cassette tape. It's been around since the, probably like the late 70s, like I said. Or I don't know if I said this since I had to start over, but I'm not very technical with these, so bear with me when I try to describe how they work and everything. I don't know a lot about them. I just know about the listening experience and everything. So, the way the cassette works is that there's two tape rolls in here. One of them is what's already heard, and the other is what hasn't been heard. So, when you're listening to this, your cassette player puts its, the thing that picks up the sound on top of this right here. It puts it directly down, and as the tape moves this way, the tape scratches the other thing and produces a sound. So that's how cassettes works. Kind of similar to records, but there's no grooves. Obviously, this is not even close to the experience that you get from a record. It's unbelievable compared to anything. So it's not as good, but you get the idea. It's like a cassette, or I'm sorry, like a VHS. If you've ever watched, like videotapes, it's the same concept, except for this is sound only. It is two-sided, just like records. You have to flip it over. Sometimes the higher-end cassette players will just play it backwards, so you won't have to actually flip the cassette. I know cars do that. My cassette player does that. It's a professional recording one. But another good thing about these that I like, it may not matter to some people, but for me it does. For instance, you're listening to the same CD. If you stop your CD, if you have to go or something, and turn off your CD player, unless you're in a car, if you turn off your CD player, you're going to lose the spot you're on. And with the car, it saves it, so this isn't relevant to a car. But with a cassette, if you stop the cassette and turn off your cassette player if you have to go, you come back a week from now, you're still going to have the same spot that you did before, and you can continue listening if you'd like to. You can start over, too, by rewinding it, which is a letdown. You have to rewind it, but it doesn't take very long. Another amazing thing about this, that if you don't want to spend a lot of money on your music on iTunes or whatever, of course, you could download your music off the Pirate Bay, which, whatever. If you do that, fine. I do that, too. But if you don't want to do that for whatever reason, you can get a cassette player connected to your computer and record it off of these. And the reason I say that is because you can go to Half Price Books or anywhere else and get these for 50 and 25 cents each for a whole album. That is amazing. It's not much at all. And I think cassettes get a bad rep, but they're really not that bad. Like I said, you can get CD quality off of these. It just depends on how high quality of the cassette you have. They have low quality ones. Most of them are decent quality. A lot of them are low quality. It's kind of hard to find a high quality one. But the reason is it's just the tape quality and the under thing that this little thing right here. There's a piece of metal right here. There's different kind of metal used in these. I believe copper is the best one. I'm not sure how that works. Like I said, I'm not technical on these, but they're very durable too. Bang them around, throw them on the floor, whatever. They're not going to break. They're not going to scratch. This will never scratch. Unlike records or CDs or even iPods, you can scratch an iPod or an MP3 player, or even if you have a Zune, whatever. You can drop it and scratch it. You can drop it and it'll break. You'd have to throw this as hard as you can on the floor to break it. It's very durable. Not that that matters to too many people, because you're obviously going to take care of your iPod or whatever. But that's just a point if you have kids or whatever. But I do like these. I don't ever put these down. They are good. They're reliable. They work. It gets the job done. So, the next one is the CD, the compact digital audio disc. This is one of the first CDs made, not the earliest one. This is from 1985. The case is really thick. This is the original print of the wall. CDs, I'll show you one if you've never seen a CD before. This is an older one, so they don't look like this anymore. But basically, this is the cover. They're in color now. When these were first being made, they didn't print them in color. They just printed the title and everything else here. They didn't print them in color usually. The back, they don't look like this anymore either. But I don't know if you can see that in the light. It kind of looks like a record in a little bit in the back. It has a ring here, and then the rest is just bare. And that's for songs that haven't been, that's just extra space on the CD. Now it's just clear, you can't see any difference, but that's how they made them back then. It kind of looks like if you burned a CD on your computer. That's how it looks. And you can get, like, on the vinyl, I showed you all the artwork. You can get that on here, but it's just not the same. It's a little thing that you have to fold out, which, I mean, is nice, but I don't even think you can get this on the new print of the wall. You can see here, the same artwork, it's just not as big, and it doesn't look as good. It was printed a little bit cheaper, but it's still nice. You still get all the artwork and everything. You can still get all the stuff on the back. It's pretty nice. I don't mind it. It was a nice thing. But a lot of CDs don't even have that anymore. And another complaint, a huge complaint that I have with CDs, is that the new CDs, they try to make everything louder on the new CDs. So they boost the audio on the new CDs. They digitize it and make it sound more high definition with 7.1 audio and all that stuff, which distorts the music in a way. It messes up the ones and zeros, whatever you want to call it. So it's adding extra ones and zeros in there to make it louder, which takes away from the actual song and the actual artist. So that's another problem I have with CDs. It kind of, the new ones, I don't buy new CDs. If I'm gonna get a CD, it's gonna be from my favorite albums, so I can just have the CD to play in the car or whatever. Otherwise, I'll just have it on my iPod. I don't buy new CDs because of that reason. It's a chore to listen to it. It really is, because it's not the same. After you go listening to a record, it blows your mind compared to a CD or an iPod. It's just not the same. And the old CDs are great. I have no complaints with old CDs. They sound great. They really do. Sometimes you really can't tell if you're just listening on the headphones or whatever, you can't really tell the difference of a record or a CD. But if you have like professional, good, decent speakers, you can definitely tell the difference. There's no comparison to vinyl, to anything else. And CDs are good. I like them. It's just, like I said, I won't buy a new one. A lot of times they won't put in songs that are on the record. They won't put them on a CD. There are a few albums that, when they're released on compact discs, they take off a song, so it'll stay on one CD, so they don't have to spend the extra money of making another disc for that. And that's something I don't like. I can imagine why they do that. It's just, I don't like that. I was going to make another point. I'm not sure what it was. But anyway, CDs are good. They're just not really relevant in this day and age when you have iPods and iTunes and all that. They're really not relevant. If you're going to buy the digital version of a song or a disc or whatever, you might as well just buy it off of iTunes. Which leads to the next one. But before I want to go into that, I forgot one thing about vinyls. Vinyls have picked up a lot. They were dead in the 90s and in the early to mid 2000s, but since about 2007 or 2008, they've really picked up, and it's just because the new generation is now going into them. I've been listening to records since I was 5. I've always had records. My mom had a collection, and I just got into that. I've always had records. I've always listened to them, so I've grown up with them, which I'm really glad I did, because a lot of kids, they don't even know what a record is. I'm 16, and most of my friends have never seen a record in their life, so it's just really weird. But they're making them now. They're still making records. Records are still, people, if they see a record, they'll be like, oh, that's rare, you better take care of it. Well, the records are still being made. You can still buy this. You can buy a brand new in the package made this year, probably this month. You can buy vinyls. They're very commonly made now. And The only downside is that the audio, again, may be distorted. Now that we have computers, it's not going to sound the same as this because the audio has been reproduced on the analog. You can reproduce analog audio, you can distort analog audio just as you can with digital. Now with computers, they're being computer made now. My friend has the brand new version of this. This is the original 1979 print, which is worth about $50. He bought the new one, which was like, I believe, $72 or something like that. It sounds terrible compared to this. It's not even as loud, and it's distorted. I don't know what happened to it, but it just doesn't sound as good. The record is in good condition as this is, but it sounds terrible compared to this. So you can have bad records. It's not the vinyl fault. It's just the way that it was reproduced. So I forgot another downside to records, which it doesn't bother me. I'm completely fine and I enjoy it, is the popping. And it really doesn't matter. If that happens, it's sort of your fault. If you have a bad record player or a cheap USB record player or whatever, or a bad needle, you pulled your record player out of the garage and it's all dusty, you're going to get bad audio quality with the popping and everything. That's just expected. The only way you can really get decent sound is to go out and buy a $800 record player that's brand new, or get on Craigslist and find a vintage record player from the 80s. I have a 1985 Technics record player that was the most advanced record player they made in the mid-80s. It cost like something like $2,200 when it was brand new, and I paid $70 for it on Craigslist, and it blows your mind when you listen to it. It's amazing. It's not even the kind that you lift up and put on the record. It's a slide one. It's really cool. I'll make a review on it for you guys, but it depends on what record player you have. Just like if you have a junky CD player. If you go to Walmart and buy a $30 CD player, your CDs aren't going to sound good. If you go out to Best Buy and buy a $500 CD player, they're going to sound great. It just depends on the equipment you have. And a lot of people make that distinction that, oh, well, records are junky because they pop and everything. Well, you don't have a good record player, first of all, and, you know, your records are probably dirty. If you have a dirty CD, it's not going to sound good. It's going to be, if you have like a CD full of fingerprints, it's going to skip, same as records. If they've been sitting in your attic for 30 years, they're going to be full of dust, and the dust is going to be inside of the grooves. So every time the needle goes around, it's going to bump on that dust mite or whatever, and distort the sound. So it's all about the quality of your record and the quality of your record player. So I hope that makes sense. Now, sorry about that, guys. I forgot about all that stuff. So I'll move on to the iPod now, or the iTunes, or whatever you want to call it. So I like this. I love iPods. I love iTunes. It's a great audio format for me. It's, in my opinion, I think it's a fact. They're better than CDs. If you go and buy an album on iTunes, it's better than a compact disc because the bit rate's higher. A CD doesn't really have that high of a quality of audio. Even though it sounds good, it's really not that high of a quality. So if you go out on iTunes, you can get amazingly high quality downloads because the bit rate's just really high. You can go from 9,000 bit rate or something. I'm not very familiar with the digital stuff either, but MP3 is a great format, and the sound quality from completely digital off the internet stuff is great. Again, it just depends on how it was digitized, which means that if you're going to buy a Beatles album off of iTunes, it depends on how that actual reel-to-reel original print of it was recorded onto the computer and digitized. That's what digitized means, is made from analog. I'm digitizing right now because I'm talking into the phone. The microphone's, like I said, converting it into a digital audio file, which is the same concept when you think about older music into digital. Even the microphones that the artists sing into, if they're not good quality, you're not going to get good sound. Every step has to be taken into consideration when you think about music in any format. So that's something else you have to think about. Another thing you have to think about is that you don't really have a physical copy of your music. Yes, it's on here. Yes, this is a physical thing. I'm holding it right now. but you don't get a physical copy of your music. For instance, this is a physical, I can hold this in my hand, which means a little bit to me, may not to you, but of course if you really wanted one, you could get a CD burner and burn all your music onto CDs, and then have a physical version. So it just depends on that. Other than that, I really have no complaints about this. The audio quality is very good, of course. Like I said, nothing compares to vinyl, because it's completely 100% analog without any distortion, except for the pops and clicks that you'd get. This has no this doesn't skip. It plays, it'll never wear out. A CD will wear out, it'll, if you don't take care of them, they'll warp, whatever, just like records or cassettes. Cassettes wear out quickly. It just depends on how you take care of them. This, it'll never wear out. You can play it over and over and over, and you'll get the same effect. So, that's another decent thing about this. You can take this anywhere with you. Anywhere you go, you can just put it in your pocket and take it with you. That's a downside to everything that I've showed you except for this. Except for the exception of CDs or cassettes, you can get a CD player and take that with you. Are the same with a cassette, but you're only going to get one album and one artist unless you make a mixtape, which people haven't done since the 90s. But this is great. I like this. I have no complaints to it. I, of course, prefer my records. And I like records so much, is what I do is I have a USB record player. I have my 85 Techniques record player, and then I have my Sony USB record player. And I connect that to my laptop and just record all my records and digitize them in high quality MP3 with the highest bitrate possible. I use Audacity. I'll make a tutorial on that as well on how to do that. And it works really well for me. I enjoy that. And I still get a very, very good sound quality off the record on my iPod. And I actually enjoy the little clicks and everything that you get off of a record, because it kind of feels like it's part of the song, if that makes sense. I enjoy that. A lot of people, it annoys them, but I really like that. So that's pretty much everything. My favorite two are these two. You may have different opinions, but most people will prefer this over everything. If you haven't heard record, you should try it and see what you think about it. You're going to get the same effect from a CD or an MP3 player. And I wouldn't really, if you don't have a lot of cassettes, if you want to go into it, just to go into it, go ahead. But it's not really something that I'm not recommending it. I like cassettes. I just like the whole vintage thing. So I get cassettes, and my car used to have a cassette player, so I would buy cassettes for that reason too. But it's up to you and what you like. Vinyls are expensive. Some of them are. There's a record store in my city that sells a lot of records for $1, and then they have a lot of records for like $50 or $100. Like an original Beatles album would be very expensive. I don't listen to them, so I don't really know how much that would be. But I paid $55 for that Pink Floyd album, which was a lot of money, but it was really worth it for the experience. So, for most people, MP3 players will be just good enough. And unless you really, really care for music and really, really enjoy listening to music, I would recommend to just stay with CDs or MP3 players. If you really, or I mean, if you don't really, really enjoy music, you know what I mean. But if you really, really like music and really care about it and enjoy listening to songs, I'd recommend vinyl, because the experience is amazing. You don't even need a fancy record player or fancy speakers. All you need is a decent pair of headphones and a decent turntable, and that you can listen to your music on. And it works really well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sure this is going to be like 20 minutes, but I appreciate it if you watched it towards the end, and I hope it was informative and you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, if there's anything else you guys want to see, please feel free to leave a comment. I love reading you guys' comments and seeing what you guys think, and saying you love the videos, you hate the videos. I appreciate every single one of your opinions, and I take them into consideration each time I record a video. So, anyway, now that I'm done with the video, I'll explain to you a little bit about what's going on with my channel and everything. Since I did tell you guys I'd make a video every day, I got backed up a little bit because I had a wedding to go to, and I was out of town where there wasn't any real internet to use, and it would take like 2 hours just to upload one video. I managed to upload one a few days ago, but it took forever. I'm recording in my basement right now because my room is a complete mess because I'm organizing it for you guys so I can do the room tour. A completely new layout in my room. And outside it's 40 degrees and dark, so I didn't want to make a video outside. So I decided to make it in here. But I hope you guys liked this video. Please subscribe, leave a comment. There's more videos like this coming up. And thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video.